Welcome to WealthRise Stories, where clarity meets knowledge, and knowledge becomes financial power.
Hello there and welcome back to our channel. Today, let's step into a different space together, a quieter, more reflective one, to talk about a question that I believe at least once in your life you've either asked yourself directly or felt quietly lingering in the back of your mind. Have you ever wondered whether the world you're living in day after day, hour after hour, is truly your world? Or is it just a sketch, a script someone else has written for you? Or worse, a random directionless sequence of events you simply have to accept? This isn't some far-fetched philosophical puzzle. On the contrary, it's incredibly practical and deeply weighty, especially when we talk about the book we're diving into today, Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World. And the theme of this section, I call it, The Hook, Are You Really Creating Your Own World? Let me tell you a story. A story I've heard from many people, different versions, same core. I remember a woman named Anna. Anna wasn't incompetent. She had a degree, a solid job at a major U.S. corporation. From the outside, her life looked put together. But deep inside, Anna always felt an unnamed heaviness. Every morning, waking up felt like a weight pressing on her chest. Her job lacked meaning, her social interactions felt hollow, and above all, she felt like a drifting boat, no direction, no agency. She believed her life was predetermined, that her limitations, her hardships, were simply the result of circumstances, of fate. Anna's world at that time seemed to be built from invisible walls, walls made of fear, of the quiet belief that she wasn't good enough, not lucky enough. And those walls weren't built by anyone else. She built them herself by repeating those limiting thoughts in her own mind, day after day, until one day something small, a conversation with a stranger, a random book she stumbled across, or maybe just a rare quiet moment when she finally sat down and listened to herself sparked something inside her. She began to question those long-held beliefs. Was it true that she couldn't change? Or had she simply chosen to believe she couldn't? From there, Anna stepped onto a new journey. She didn't quit her job overnight. She didn't magically transform into a different person. What she did was shift the way she looked at her work. She looked for small pockets of meaning. She set attainable goals. She learned to observe her thoughts rather than be dragged around by them. She learned to challenge her negative beliefs, and slowly she began creating better internal experiences. And you know what? Little by little, almost magically, Anna's world began to change. Not the outside world, but the world within her. Those invisible walls started to crumble. She no longer woke up feeling suffocated. She found small joys in her job, built more genuine relationships, and most importantly, she finally felt like she was steering the boat of her life instead of being a passive passenger. She was rebuilding her own world, one thought at a time. Anna's story, though ordinary, carries incredible power. It makes us ask ourselves, if one person can change their entire world simply by changing their thoughts, then why? Why do so many smart, hardworking, educated people still feel stuck, still feel helpless in the flow of life? This is the painful paradox so many people face. We're taught to study hard, get good grades, work tirelessly to succeed. And many of us do exactly that. We pour thousands of hours into work, into skills, into trying to fit in. We read books, take courses, listen to podcasts. Yet the emptiness, the lack of control, the lack of meaning still lingers. Have you ever felt like you're running on a treadmill? You're pushing yourself to the limit, sweating, grinding? But when you look back, you're still in the same place. Worse, you see other people maybe not as skilled, not as hardworking, yet they seem happier, more relaxed, and somehow they achieve the things you want. And that feeling isn't just envy, it's a haunting question. Where am I going wrong, or what am I missing? We learn how to operate machines, how to manage complex systems, how to solve the hardest problems. But we're rarely taught how to operate the most powerful thing we have, our own mind. We can be engineers building bridges, scientists studying the universe, entrepreneurs building entire empires. Yet we may have no idea how to build a stable inner world, a personal structure that brings peace and fulfillment. This paradox traps many bright people in a cycle of self-blame and quiet defeat, even though they're trying harder than anyone. They feel swept away by a fast-moving current reacting to life, instead of directing it, unable to find the oar or the steering wheel. They want to change the world, to do something big, but don't realize that true creation begins at the closest possible place within themselves. And that is exactly where applied psychology, making your own world, comes in. This book isn't abstract theory. It's a practical psychological toolkit, strategies backed by real experience designed to be applied immediately in everyday life. It helps you understand how your mind works, what unconscious mechanisms drive your emotions and behaviors. We're not going to dive into complicated concepts. Instead, we'll explore concrete tools, the kind of secret kit that helps you break invisible walls, loosen the chains of negative thinking, and start rebuilding your world according to the blueprint you truly want. We'll go deep into how these tools change, not just how you think, but how you feel, how you act, and ultimately how they transform the reality you experience. We'll explore how to shift from passivity and stagnation to a state of agency and power, a place where you become the architect of your own life. Are you ready to take hold of those tools, ready to discover that you're not just a resident of this world, you're also a creator of it? If the answer is yes, then join us as we begin this journey. Because your world is waiting for you to shape it. Welcome to our channel. Have you ever felt like you're standing in the middle of a massive library surrounded by incredible books on psychology, self-development, life, philosophy? And yet the moment you close the book, your life stays exactly the same. Like, so many things, but somehow can't seem to do anything meaningful to change your current reality. To be honest, I used to be the exact same way. For many, many years, I buried myself in books, underlined passages, highlighted quotes, took meticulous notes, nodded in agreement, thinking, that makes sense. Brilliant. But all that knowledge just sat there in my head, in my notebooks, rarely making its way into my daily choices, my small actions, my real life. It was like reading 100 cookbooks, knowing every recipe and technique. But your kitchen is still cold, and you're still eating instant noodles every night. Ridiculous, right? Until one day, I happened to pick up a book, Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World. Even the title sparked something different in me. Applied, used, practiced. Making your own world, building the world you want. This book wasn't just about understanding what psychology is. It drilled deep into what psychology can do for you, and more importantly, what you can do with it. Its author, a master at turning abstract concepts into practical tools, kept repeating one core message. Knowledge that doesn't turn into action is nothing but a burden, a storage unit of unused information. This book isn't a dry academic lecture. It's a detailed map, a step-by-step handbook showing you how to use proven psychological principles to actually create the reality you want. It doesn't promise miracles, but it absolutely promises transformation if you're willing to step in. And that brings me to my personal perspective, the aha moment I had. I had read so many books, listened to countless podcasts, taken so many courses. You know the drill, that endless loop of seeking knowledge. But it wasn't until I actually started applying the principles in applied psychology that my life truly changed. Really. Not in some dramatic overnight way, like reading the book in the morning and winning the lottery by evening, but in a slow, steady, profound shift from the inside out. The way I viewed problems, the way I responded to challenges, the way I communicated with people, and even the way I talked to myself, everything began to change. I started realizing I had far more agency than I'd ever believed. That I could influence my emotions, thoughts, and behaviors intentionally, rather than just being swept away by them. I no longer felt like a victim of circumstance. I felt like the architect of my own life. My external world didn't suddenly turn magical, but my internal world transformed completely. And that inner shift naturally began to reflect outward, bringing new opportunities, better relationships, and a sense of peace and stability I'd never felt before. So the goal of this video isn't just to dissect every page or dump more information into the knowledge drawer of your mind. No. Our goal is to turn these pages into a real actionable plan. We'll dive deeply into each principle and break down how we can apply it in our everyday lives, from emotional management to building positive habits, to improving relationships, to shaping the career and future we dream of. All of it can start with understanding and applying psychology consciously. And I want to be clear, this isn't a lecture from me to you. Not at all. I'm not the only expert here, and I truly believe each of us brings unique experiences and insights. This is a conversation, a shared journey we're taking together. I'll share what I've learned, what I've applied successfully, and yes, the things I've failed at too. And I really hope you'll share your thoughts, your questions, and your own experiences in the comments below. Think of me as a companion, someone walking beside you, flipping through the pages with you, experimenting with you, learning with you. Together we'll turn theory into action, and action into real tangible results. So, are you ready not just to read about building your world, but to actually start building it? If so, then let's begin right now. Welcome to this journey into the mind and the art of creating your own world. I'm WealthRise Stories, and today we're diving deep into a topic that I truly believe once you really understand it, your life will never be the same. This is Chapter 1, The Foundation of Perception. What you see is what life becomes in our video series on the book Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World. It sounds like a big lofty title, but trust me, it's actually incredibly down-to-earth and closely connected to each of us. Have you ever wondered why two people can witness the exact same event and then tell two completely different stories about it? Or why the same piece of information can feel positive to one person and negative to another? No, it's not because one of them is lying. It's simply because each of us is living in a reality shaped by the way we perceive the world. And that's the foundation we're going to explore today, how perception shapes each person's reality, and the shortcuts. Our mind constantly takes shortcuts that can cause our internal map of the world to look very different from the actual territory. 1. Core principle. The map is not the territory. To begin, I want to introduce a golden principle in psychology and linguistics summed up by Alfred Korzybski, a great philosopher and semanticist. The map is not the territory. Sounds simple, right? But its power is enormous. Picture a map. It's an amazing tool. It helps us navigate, find directions, estimate distances. But no matter how accurate it is, that map is not the actual road, not the real flowing river, not the towering mountain out there in the world, is it? Of course not. It's just a representation, a simplification, a scaled-down model of reality. It can leave out details, oversimplify, or even be outdated. Now apply this principle to your mind. Your brain also creates a map of the world around you. That map is formed from so many things: your life experiences, what you were taught growing up, the values you believe in, the emotions you've gone through, and even the emotional scars you still carry from the past. The problem is we often forget that our map is not the actual territory. We confuse our interpretation of the world with the world itself. We assume the reality we're experiencing is the absolute truth. And that assumption can cause a lot of trouble in communication, in relationships, and even in how we treat ourselves. Each of us has our own filter, our own map for decoding information from the outside world. And that filter determines what you see, what you feel, and ultimately what your life becomes. 2. Illustrating common cognitive biases. So why is our map so often distorted or inaccurate? Because our mind, as powerful as it is full of shortcuts, cognitive biases that help us process information faster, but in return can lead to flawed judgments. Today we're going to talk about two of the most common biases, confirmation bias and the anchoring effect. A. Confirmation bias. Have you ever noticed that once you believe something, you suddenly find evidence everywhere that supports that belief, while ignoring or dismissing anything that contradicts it? That's confirmation bias. Take this example. Your friend just bought a new phone and won't stop raving about it. Best camera, amazing battery life, super smooth performance. If you're also thinking about buying that phone, you'll naturally start searching for positive reviews, glowing YouTube videos, and impressed comments. Meanwhile, you'll likely skim past or downplay negative feedback about software bugs or weak battery performance. Your mind is busy confirming your initial belief that this is a great choice. Or here's a stronger example: politics. If you support a particular candidate, you'll tend to follow news outlets that share your viewpoint, repost articles praising your candidate, and dismiss negative stories about them as fake news or smear campaigns. On the other hand, you'll be quick to accept and spread negative stories about their opponent. See, it's usually not about deliberately deceiving anyone. It's a natural mechanism of the brain designed to maintain consistency and protect our existing beliefs. But what's the cost? It keeps us living inside an information bubble, only letting in what fits our current map. And over time, that map drifts further and further away from the real territory. B. The anchoring effect. The second bias we need to talk about is the anchoring effect. Imagine you're on a boat and you drop an anchor into the water. That anchor fixes the boat to a certain spot. The boat may rock or drift a little, but it won't stray too far from where the anchor is. In psychology, the anchoring effect describes our tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, the anchor, when making judgments or decisions. The classic example is in sales or negotiation. Let's say you're shopping for a used car. The seller sets the initial asking price at $25,000. Even if you suspect that's higher than the car is really worth, at $25,000 becomes an anchor in your mind. Every number that follows $23,000, $21,000, even $19,500 feels like a good deal compared to the original $25,000. But in reality, the car might only be worth around $18,000. Another everyday example: first impressions. When you meet someone new, the first bits of information you get about them and their appearance, how they speak, or even what someone else says about them become an anchor. That anchor heavily shapes how you interpret everything they say or do afterward. If the anchor is positive, you'll tend to overlook small flaws. If the anchor is negative, it becomes much harder to see them in a fair light, no matter how much they improve later. The anchoring effect shows us that initial information, whether truly relevant or not, can distort our judgment in surprisingly powerful ways. It creates a reference point, and from that point on, all our later assessments get pulled toward it. 3. A small exercise for you. Your 3 core beliefs. So in this chapter 1, we've explored the principle. The map is not the territory, and 2 powerful cognitive biases, confirmation bias and the anchoring effect. All of them point to one core idea. Your reality isn't a single objective truth. It's something constructed from the way you perceive the world. Now let's do a small but incredibly powerful exercise. I'd like you to take a bit of time, maybe right after you finish this video, and write down 3 core beliefs that are shaping the way you see the world. These don't have to be lofty philosophies. They can be very simple, everyday beliefs like, the world is a fiercely competitive place, and you have to fight to survive. People are basically good, and everyone deserves a second chance. I always have to try my best so I don't disappoint others. Money is the root of all evil. Luck only comes to people who are meant to have it. or any other belief that you feel is truly influencing your decisions, emotions, and behavior day to day. What's the point? The point is for you to start noticing, to notice what kind of maps you're carrying, what kind of colored lenses you're wearing, that tint the way you see the world. These beliefs are like tinted glasses. Whatever color they are, that's the color everything appears to you. Once you've identified them, you'll be able to start challenging them, testing how true they really are, and, if needed, changing them. That's how you begin to create a more accurate map, one that helps you live more effectively and more happily. You can write them down on paper in your journal, or if you feel comfortable, share one of them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you're thinking. We've just taken the first step on the journey of making your own world. And this first step isn't about changing the outside world, it's about changing the way you see it. Remember, the map is not the territory. And recognizing your cognitive biases is the key to recalibrating that map. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into how language and the stories we tell ourselves shape our reality, and how we can consciously rewrite those stories to create the life we actually want. If you found this video helpful and you want to continue this journey with me, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to click the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Welcome to WealthRise Stories, where we explore the mysteries of the mind together and use them to build a more meaningful life. In Chapter 1, we laid the foundation for the idea that our world is created from the inside out, from the way we think and feel. Today we're going to go deeper into one of the most powerful forces shaping that reality: the power of focus. The title of this chapter pretty much says it all. Energy flows where attention goes. This simple phrase holds a profound, almost revolutionary truth about how we experience and shape our lives. Where you place your attention, where you direct your mental energy, is exactly where your world is being built. Think about it. What determines whether you feel excited or drained on a given morning? What makes one workday fly by in a blur of progress and accomplishment, while another day drags on in procrastination and confusion? The answer, more often than not, lies in your focus. How we allocate our attention doesn't just shape our daily experience, it determines the results we get in life. It's the compass guiding our actions, our decisions, and ultimately, the outcomes we achieve. The book Applied Psychology: Making Your Own World, which we're exploring together, emphasizes that you can master your world by mastering your mind. And at the heart of mastering your mind is this: your ability to direct your focus. But how do we actually control this invisible, incredibly powerful energy? To begin this journey, I want to introduce a core concept, an amazing lens for deciding where we should place our attention, introduced by Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's the difference between the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Imagine 2 concentric circles. The larger outer circle, we'll call it your circle of concern. This is where everything you care about lives. All the things that grab your attention on a daily basis: the weather, the economy, global politics, breaking news, your coworker's attitude, your boss's decisions, comments on social media, or even the traffic on your morning commute. There are so many things in this circle that worry us, frustrate us, or make us angry. But here's the key: we have little to no control over most of them. They're outside our reach. If you spend most of your mental energy and focus on your circle of concern, complaining about traffic, being annoyed with the weather, obsessing over things you can't change, what happens? It's simple. You start to feel like a victim. You feel powerless, stressed, and easily pulled into a spiral of negativity. Your energy gets drained, and you have almost nothing to show for it. You become reactive instead of proactive. Now, inside that circle of concern is a smaller circle, your circle of influence. This is where all the things you can directly control or impact live. Things like your attitude toward a problem, how you respond to criticism, the effort you put into your work, the skills you choose to develop, how you take care of your health, how you communicate, how you choose to spend your time. In short, the actions you take, and the choices that belong to you. People who are proactive and effective focus their energy and attention on their circle of influence. Instead of worrying about what they can't change, they focus on what they can do. If it rains, they don't complain. They grab an umbrella or adjust their plans. If they hit a challenge at work, they don't just blame others. They focus on solutions and skill building. And when they do that consistently, their circle of influence slowly expands. They gain more control, more power, and create more positive outcomes in their lives. This isn't just theory. Ask yourself today, which circle did I spend more of my attention on? Just becoming aware of this is already a huge step forward, because again, energy flows where attention goes. If you want to change your world, start by changing where you place your focus. But in our modern world, keeping our attention in the circle of influence, or honestly keeping our attention on anything for more than a few minutes, feels like a superpower. Has your phone ever felt like a magnet for your attention? Have you ever sat down to work only to find yourself hopping from tab to tab, app to app, without even realizing it? We're living in an age of constant distraction. Every chime, every notification, every catchy headline on social media is like a hook pulling your attention away from your work, away from the present moment. And we often convince ourselves that we can handle it all. We call it multitasking. But science has made it very clear multitasking is a myth. Our brains are not designed to do multiple demanding tasks at the same time effectively. What we call multitasking is actually just rapid context switching. Imagine you're reading a great book, and every few minutes, you switch to a completely different article or app, then try to jump back into the book. Each time you switch, your brain has to restart, relocate where you were, and rebuild your train of thought. And the cost of this constant distraction and so-called multitasking is huge. First, there's the damage to your mental health. 1. Stress and anxiety. When you're constantly interrupted, you feel pressure to juggle too many things at once. Stress hormones like cortisol rise. Anxiety creeps in because you never feel truly caught up or fully present in anything. 2. Lower productivity and poorer work quality studies show that every time you switch contexts, it can take up to 20 minutes to fully regain your original level of focus. 20 minutes just to get back into the zone. How can we possibly work efficiently with that kind of cost? Interrupted work leads to more mistakes, lower quality, and way more time spent to finish the same tasks. 2. Mental fatigue. Constantly switching tasks and processing too much information at once drains your brain's cognitive resources. By the end of the day, you feel exhausted, foggy, and it's much harder to make good decisions. 4. Difficulty learning and remembering. Deep learning and long-term memory require focused, uninterrupted attention. Distraction breaks that process apart, making it harder to truly absorb new information and easier to forget it later. 5. Reduced creativity. Creativity often needs long, uninterrupted stretches of flow where ideas can naturally connect and evolve. Multitasking kills that flow. We're essentially pushing ourselves into a maze of fragmentation where our energy is scattered into 1,000 tiny pieces, never concentrated enough to create real impact. So how do we escape this trap and reclaim control of our focus? Fortunately, there's a simple but incredibly powerful technique you can start using right away to train your focus muscle. It's called time boxing. What is time boxing? Put simply, it's choosing a specific fixed block of time with 0 interruptions to work on one single task and nothing else. Instead of saying, "I'll work on this report until it's done," you say, "I'm going to spend 50 minutes from 9:00 to 9:50 just working on this report, and during that time, I won't do anything else." Here's how to use time boxing effectively. 1. Choose one specific task. Be crystal clear about what you're going to do. For example, write the introduction for Report X, not work on Report X. 2. Set a fixed time block. A popular method is the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest. but you can adjust this to fit you 20 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. The key is that it's a defined, committed block of time. 3. Eliminate distractions. This step is crucial. Turn off notifications on your phone, close unrelated browser tabs, and find a quiet spot if you can. Make a clear promise to yourself during this time block. You will only focus on the chosen task. 4. Focus fully. Once the timer starts, all your energy and attention go into that task. No email checking, no scrolling, no quick peeks at social media, no mental wandering into other to-dos. Just you and the task. 5. Rest. When the time is up, stop. Stand up, stretch, get some water, or do something relaxing for a few minutes. Then you can start another time box or move on to something else. Why is time boxing so effective? It strengthens focus. It forces you to practice staying with one thing, just like going to the gym, trains your muscles. It reduces procrastination. When you know you only have to commit to, say, 25 or 50 minutes, big tasks feel less intimidating. It's much easier to get started. It creates a sense of progress. Even if you haven't finished the entire task, completing a time box gives you a feeling of accomplishment, which fuels motivation for the next round. It improves time management. You start to see how much focused time different tasks actually require, which helps you plan your day more realistically. It reduces stress by committing to one thing at a time. You relieve yourself from the pressure of juggling everything at once, and you protect yourself from mental burnout. I've used time boxing for years, and it has truly been a secret weapon for getting through big projects and high-focus periods. At first, it can feel hard. You'll notice your mind wandering, wanting to check this or that, but stay with it. Every time you gently pull your attention back to the task, you're rebuilding the neural pathways of focus. So my friends, the power of focus isn't just a skill, it's a way of life. Where you place your attention is where you build your world. We've explored together the clear difference between your circle of concern and your circle of influence, and why focusing on the latter gives you more agency and power. The serious damage that constant distraction and the myth of multitasking cause to our mental health and productivity, and a practical, effective solution. The time boxing technique to reclaim control of your attention and get meaningful things done. Remember the mantra of this chapter: energy flows where attention goes. Choose your focus consciously and intentionally. Choose to place your energy into what you can influence, into actions that create real results. Give yourself the gift of uninterrupted, deep focus time, and you'll be amazed at the creative power you've had all along. In the next chapter, we'll dive into another powerful dimension of applied psychology: the art of self-reflection and compassion. How can we see ourselves and others more clearly, more kindly, more deeply? Don't miss it. Thank you for listening. Try time boxing today, even just one block, and share your experience in the comments below. I'll see you in the next chapter of WealthRise Stories. Welcome back to our journey of exploring the inner world and how we can intentionally shape it. In the previous chapters, we've laid the groundwork for understanding that our life is not just made up of what happens on the outside, but also of how we choose to feel and respond to those events. And today we're going to dive into a force that is incredibly powerful, often underestimated, yet shapes almost every aspect of your confidence and happiness: your inner language. This is Chapter 3, Inner Language, Friend or Foe. Have you ever asked yourself that voice echoing in your head all day long? Who is it? Is it a friend who's always cheering you on? Or is it a silent enemy constantly criticizing you and dragging you down? The book, Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World, points out a harsh truth. The quality of our lives is to a large extent determined by the quality of the conversation we have with ourselves. 1. Recognizing common patterns of negative self-talk. Picture this in your head. There's someone who follows you around everywhere, and this person never stops commenting on everything you do. You're not good enough. Look, you messed it up again. Other people can do it, but you never will. You're so stupid for thinking you could pull that off. Sound familiar? Of course it does, because these phrases, or some version of them, are part of the arsenal of negative self-talk that so many of us carry around. I remember a time when I first started this YouTube channel. Every time I tried to write a script or come up with ideas, that voice would show up. Your channel isn't special. Who's going to listen to you? Other people are already doing this way better. You're just wasting your time. And you know what? Those whispers weren't just random passing thoughts. They were like tiny bullets being fired at my confidence constantly. They slowly ate away at my joy and my energy. They turned my original excitement into anxiety, then into procrastination, and eventually into insecurity. The book emphasizes that recognizing these negative self-talk patterns is the first and most crucial step. We have to become detectives of our own minds, carefully listening to our internal monologue. Some of the most common ones: I'm not good enough. This is the king of negative self-talk. It's an invisible ceiling that limits your potential. You never even start because you're convinced you'll fail. I always fail. When something doesn't go your way, this voice instantly turns one single setback into a permanent rule. A small mistake becomes proof that you're a failure in every area. I'll never be able to do that. This sentence kills motivation before you even try. It slams the door on possibility. I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot. These harsh, self-attacking phrases don't just hurt your self-esteem, and they create a negative loop where you start to believe you deserve failure. When these thoughts are repeated long enough, they form solid neural pathways in our brain. It's like a well-worn trail you walk so often that you forget other paths even exist. This becomes the lens through which you see yourself and the world. It doesn't just destroy your confidence. It steals your happiness and turns you into a prisoner inside your own mind. So how do we break out of this prison? How do we turn that inner enemy into a friend, or at the very least, into a fair, objective guide? 2. Introducing the reframing technique. Turning criticism into constructive questions. This is where we need a powerful tool: reframing. Reframing is not about denying reality. It doesn't mean pretending mistakes or challenges don't exist. It's a powerful psychological skill that allows us to shift our perspective from a narrow negative frame into one that is more constructive and growth-oriented. Think of it like this: you're looking at a picture that's covered by a dirty piece of glass. Reframing is like cleaning that glass, or even putting the picture in a brand new frame so you can see it more clearly, more accurately, more beautifully. Instead of letting your inner critic drown you in guilt and helplessness, we're going to turn those attacks into constructive questions. Why questions? Because our brain is wired to look for answers. A negative question leads to negative answers, which then reinforce your belief that you're not good enough. But a constructive question opens the door to exploration, learning, and problem solving. It shifts you from the role of a judged victim to the role of an active problem solver. It transforms "Why is everything so terrible?" into "How can I make this better?" The power of questions lies in the fact that they activate the part of your brain responsible for critical thinking, planning, and problem solving. They pull you out of a passive emotional state and move you into an active, capable state. It stops being a verdict and becomes an opportunity to grow. 3. A real example. From "I messed everything up again" to "What can I learn from this mistake?" Let's take a classic example, one that all of us have probably faced. You just finished a project, gave a presentation, or maybe you simply spilled your coffee all over your desk. And instantly, that familiar voice shows up. "Great, I messed it up again. I'm useless." It's always like this with me. What shows up right after that sentence? A wave of discouragement, crushing disappointment, a spike of insecurity, and maybe even the urge to disappear from the scene completely. Right? It shuts every door. It makes you want to give up. It locks you into a loop of helplessness. Now let's try reframing. Instead of accepting that inner verdict, gently but firmly change that statement into a constructive question. Reframed inner voice. What can I learn from this mistake? What actually happened here? What could I do differently next time? Can you feel the difference? Right away, the energy shifts. A sharp criticism turns into an invitation to sit down, reflect, and understand. The question, what can I learn from this mistake, doesn't deny that something went wrong. It acknowledges it, but then moves your focus from being a failure to having an experience you can learn from. It creates space for growth. The question, what actually happened, encourages you to analyze the situation objectively instead of letting emotion take over. You start thinking about causes, conditions, and contributing factors. The question, what could I do differently next time, is action-oriented and future-focused. It gives you back a sense of control and helps you feel capable of change. Let's try a few more examples. Instead of, I'll never be able to do this, I'm terrible at it. Try, what resources, knowledge, or skills do I need to be able to do this? What's one small first step I can take? Instead of, that was so stupid of me to say. Try, what happened that made me feel that way? Is there something about how I expressed myself that I can improve next time? Reframing negative self-talk is not just a language trick. It's a deep mindset shift. It helps you let go of the victim mentality and step into the role of creator. Every time you turn a harsh judgment into a question, you're training your brain to see every mistake, every failure, as an opportunity to grow, not as evidence that you're fundamentally inadequate. The more you practice reframing, the more you reshape the neural pathways in your brain. The old negative trail gets used less and less, and a new, more constructive path is built and strengthened. This is how you consciously rebuild your inner world into one filled with confidence, a love of learning, and genuine joy. Remember, your inner language is not destiny. It's a tool, and like any tool, you can learn to use it skillfully to build, not destroy. Today, I challenge you to really listen to that voice inside you. Every time you catch a negative self-talk pattern, pause, take a deep breath, then try to reframe it into a constructive question. It may not feel natural at first. That's okay. It's a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. You're holding the key to creating a stronger, happier inner world. Use it wisely. In the next chapter, we'll explore how this inner language shapes the way we set goals and achieve them, and how to build a realistic action plan to turn the positive thoughts into concrete action. Hello, my amazing friends. Welcome back to this journey into applied psychology, where we decode the mysteries of the mind so we can build a world of our own design. In the previous chapters, we've laid the foundation for how our thinking shapes reality and the power of belief. And today, we're going to dive into a topic that I truly believe can change the game for anyone, from the smallest daily tasks to the biggest goals in your life, mastering your emotions so you can reach your peak state. Have you ever woken up with the feeling, today I can do anything? Everything seems to flow. Ideas keep coming. Your energy is overflowing. And then on other days, all you want to do is curl up under the covers. Every little task feels heavy, and that sluggish, low-key frustration just won't leave you alone. Where does that difference come from? It's not just external circumstances. A huge part of it comes from the emotional and mental state you're in. The book, Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World, the one we've been exploring together, points to a powerful truth. You are not a victim of your emotions. You are a creator. You can learn to consciously generate and maintain empowering states so you can perform at your best in every area of your life. Sounds a little too good to be true, it's not. It's grounded in science and applied psychology. So how do we actually do that? We're going to start by understanding 3 core pillars that directly shape your state, physiology, focus, and language. 1. Physiology. Focus, language, the trio that creates your state. Think about it when you're tired and discouraged. How does your body usually look? Are your shoulders slumped? Do your eyes tend to look down? Is your breathing shallow and a bit rushed? And when you're confident and full of energy, your chest is open, your head is up, your eyes are bright, Your breathing is deeper and more steady. A. Physiology. Your body is a switch. This is the first key. How you use your body has a direct impact on how you feel and think. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Posture. A slouched posture, rounded shoulders, and a collapsed chest will make you feel more tired and low energy. In contrast, standing or sitting tall with your shoulders back and your head up doesn't just signal confidence, it actually creates a feeling of confidence from the inside out. Studies have shown that holding a power pose for just a couple of minutes can increase testosterone, a hormone linked to confidence, and decrease cortisol, a stress hormone. Breathing. When you're stressed, your breathing is usually shallow and quick. When you're relaxed, it's deeper and more even. By consciously changing your breathing, inhaling deeply, exhaling slowly and steadily, you send a signal to your brain that everything is okay. And a calmer state begins to settle in. Movement, a bit of movement, even just walking around, stretching or bouncing lightly, can instantly shift your physiology, release endorphins, and shake off that sluggish feeling. And here's a small challenge for you right now. Whatever you're doing at this moment, whether you're sitting or standing, take a second and do this. Change your posture right now. Sit or stand up straight, open your shoulders, lift your head. Take a deep breath in, feel your chest expand. Exhale slowly. Notice the difference. Feel that slight shift in energy and mindset. That's the power of physiology. B. Focus. What you look at becomes your reality. The second pillar is your focus. What are you focusing on? The problem or the solution? What you've lost or what you still have? Focusing on the positive. Your brain acts like a filter. If you constantly focus on what's wrong, that filter will keep showing you more of what's wrong. But if you intentionally look for what's good, opportunities, resources, lessons, your brain will start to highlight those instead. Asking better questions. Instead of asking, "Why is everything such a mess?" try asking, "What can I learn from this situation?" Or "What can I do to make this better?" Those kinds of questions shift your focus from helplessness to possibility. Visualization. Focus on vivid images of your goals already achieved, the feeling of winning, of confidence, of progress. Mental imagery can activate similar areas of the brain as real experience, helping you generate the emotional state you want before reality catches up. C. Language. The words you use create your world. And finally, but just as important, language. Not just what you say to others, but especially what you say to yourself in your own head. Self-talk. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm terrible at this, I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail," your subconscious will believe it, and your emotions and actions will follow. Changing your wording. Instead of saying, "I'm so exhausted," try saying, "I'm recharging my energy." Instead of, "This is way too hard," then try, "This is a great challenge for me to grow." Small shifts in wording can completely change your perception and emotional response to a situation. Using empowering language. Be intentional about using strong, positive words to describe yourself and your experiences. These three elements don't operate in isolation. They're like the three legs of a tripod. When you change one, the other two tend to follow. Try it when you change your posture, physiology. It becomes easier to focus on something positive. Focus and the way you talk to yourself starts to naturally shift to something more optimistic, language. Pretty wild, right? 2. Emotional anchoring. Your button for peak state. Once you understand the power of physiology, focus, language, you can start to create positive states on purpose. But how do you trigger those states quickly, right when you need them? For example, right before an important interview, a big presentation, or simply when you need a midday energy boost. That's where a powerful technique from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, comes in, called emotional anchoring, or simply anchoring. Think of a ship dropping its anchor to hold steady against the current. Emotional anchoring works in a similar way, but it's the mind's anchor, or think of an old song or a familiar smell. Sometimes just hearing that song pulls you straight back into a specific moment from your past with all the emotions intact. The smell of your mom's cooking might instantly bring back feelings of warmth and safety from childhood. Those are natural anchors. Anchoring is the deliberate process of creating a neural link between a powerful desired emotional state like confidence, calm, or high energy, and a specific physical trigger, a touch, a gesture, a sound, or a word. Later, when you activate that trigger, your brain replays the linked emotional state. How to create a simple, effective emotional anchor. To build a strong emotional anchor, follow these 5 steps. 1. Decide which state you want to anchor. Do you want to feel confident, calm, joyful, creative? Pick a very specific state you'd like to be able to access on demand. For example, let's choose unshakable confidence and deep calm. 2. Recall and relive a peak experience. Close your eyes if you can, and recall a time in your life when you felt that state very strongly. A moment when you were truly confident or totally calm and in control. Now relive that moment as vividly as possible. What did you see around you? What sounds did you hear? Where were you? Most importantly, what did you feel in your body? Where did that feeling start? How did it spread? Was it warm or cool? What was your heartbeat like? How intense was that feeling? Dive into every detail. The clearer and more vivid it is, the better. Stay with it until you can feel that emotion rising inside you, strong, almost as if it's happening right now. 3. Create the anchor, the physical trigger. Right at the peak of that feeling, when it's at its strongest, perform a unique, consistent physical action. This will be your button. Important. Make it unique. It shouldn't be something you casually do all the time, so it doesn't accidentally get diluted. Make it consistent. Always do the exact same action when anchoring that state. Make it discreet. Ideally, you can use it in public without drawing attention. For example, lightly pressing your thumb against your index finger, touching your earlobe, gently squeezing your fist, or silently saying a certain keyword to yourself. Example, press your thumb firmly against your index finger on your non-dominant hand for 3 to 5 seconds when the emotion is at its peak. Or lightly clench your fist. 4. Reinforce the anchor. As soon as the feeling starts to fade, release the anchor. Take a deep breath. Let the state go for a moment. Repeat steps 2 and 3 to 5 more times. Each time, either recall a different moment when you felt that same state or deepen the same memory. The key is every time the emotion peaks fire, the anchor do the exact same physical action. Repetition builds a stronger neural connection. 5. Test the anchor. After reinforcing it several times, take a few deep breaths and clear your mind. Now activate your anchor. Do the exact physical action you chose. Do you feel that confident, calm state coming back? Is it as strong as you'd like? If not, go back to steps 2 and 3 and reinforce it again. Personally, I have a few anchors of my own. For example, when I'm about to present and feel a bit nervous, I gently press my thumb and index finger together on my left hand. That's my anchor for calm and clarity. Almost instantly, I feel a wave of calm, focused energy spreading through me. When I need creativity, I use a different anchor that triggers excitement and ideas. It really does feel like flipping an emotional switch. And this isn't just for the big moments in life. You can create anchors for focus while working, for patience in difficult situations, or for joy when you wake up each morning. Experiment with it. Play with it. You'll be amazed at how much control you actually have over your emotional state. So my friends, we've just explored the secret of consciously generating and sustaining positive emotional and mental states. By mastering physiology, focus, and language, and by adding the technique of emotional anchoring, you now have a powerful toolkit to truly become the architect of your own reality. To show up in your peak state and perform at your best. Don't just listen and nod along. Start practicing today. Begin by adjusting your posture, paying attention to your breathing, and being intentional with the words you use with yourself. Then try creating your first anchor maybe for confidence or calm. Watch how your life starts to shift as you learn to hold the remote control to your emotional world. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into how to set goals intelligently and turn them into reality building on the solid psychological foundation we've been creating together. Thank you for being on this journey with me. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss the valuable content coming next. I'll see you in Chapter 5. Go live an extraordinary life. Have you ever woken up one morning feeling absolutely full of energy and determined to crush a specific goal, only to watch that fire slowly fade away a few days later as if it was never there? You start a new diet, a new course, or a personal project with all the enthusiasm in the world, and then boredom, fatigue, or outside distractions slowly pull you back to where you started. If that's ever happened to you, you're not alone. Almost all of us have been there. In Chapter 5, Sustainable Motivation. Finding your why, we're going to dive into why that happens, and more importantly, how we can build a source of motivation that doesn't burn out. Think of motivation like fuel for an engine. There are two main types of fuel we usually run on. First, there's external motivation and extrinsic motivation. This is the kind of motivation that comes from outside of us. Things like money recognition, praise awards, or even wanting to avoid punishment. You work hard to get a raise, you study to get good grades, or you exercise so people will compliment how you look. External motivation is like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. It gives you a quick boost, helps you stay alert and productive for a while. But when the caffeine wears off, you crash and you need another cup. It works, but it's not sustainable. It's a gas tank that can easily run dry. And if the reward disappears, or you don't get the recognition you expected, your motivation tends to disappear with it. The second kind of motivation, and this is the one we really want to focus on, is internal motivation, intrinsic motivation. This is the fire that burns from within. It's the motivation that comes from passion, curiosity, personal purpose, or simply the joy of doing something. You learn a new language because you love that culture. You write code because you enjoy solving problems, or you help others because it gives you a deep sense of fulfillment and meaning. Internal motivation is like a self-sustaining engine. It doesn't need constant outside kicks to keep running. It feeds itself. When you do something because you truly want to, because it matters to you, then challenges and obstacles become part of the adventure, not barriers that make you want to quit. It's a well that doesn't run dry. So how do we find that deep why, the thing that ignites our intrinsic motivation? There's a story I really love about 3 workers at a large construction site. They're all chiseling huge blocks of stone for a long-term project. Someone walks by and asks the first worker, "What are you doing?" The first worker replies, "Looking tired and annoyed, I'm hammering these heavy stones. This job is boring and exhausting." The person then walks over to the second worker and asks, "What about you?" The second worker, a bit calmer, says, "I'm doing my job. I work to earn money so I can support my family." Finally, the person goes to the third worker. This man is just as sweaty and tired as the other 2, but his eyes have a different kind of light in them. He smiles and says, "I'm building something great, a cathedral that will stand for hundreds of years, a place where people will come to find faith, hope, and peace. I'm helping create a piece of history." All 3 are doing the same physical task, but their motivation is completely different. The first sees his work as a burden. The second sees it as a means to an end, a way to provide for his family. But the third, he sees himself as part of something much bigger, a purpose far beyond the stone in front of him. That powerful why turns hard labor into a mission, a source of pride, and almost endless motivation. And that's the key. When your actions are connected to a larger purpose, a meaningful, personal why, every hardship becomes smaller, and you tap into a nearly unlimited source of energy. So how do we find our big why? One incredibly effective exercise I want to share with you is called the 5 whys. It's a simple but powerful technique, often used to uncover the root cause of a problem. and it works beautifully for digging into your own motivation. Let's walk through an example together. Let's say your initial goal is I want to become fluent in English. That's the surface level desire. Now we're going to ask why 5 times. Why, number 1. Why do I want to become fluent in English? Answer, because I want a better job with a higher salary. This is mostly external motivation, but we're going to go deeper. Why, number 2. Why do I want a better job with a higher salary? Answer, so I can give my family a more comfortable life and save for my kids' future. Now we're touching a slightly bigger purpose. Why, number 3. Why do I want to provide a comfortable life and save for my kids' future? Answer, because I want to feel secure and independent, not stressed about money, and I want to build a solid foundation so my kids have the best chance to grow. Deeper still now, we're getting into safety and responsibility. Why, number 4, why do I want to feel secure, independent, and create a strong foundation for my kids? Answer, because I believe everyone has a responsibility to live a meaningful life, to keep learning and growing, to become the best version of themselves, and be a role model for others, especially for my children. Now we're touching a core value, a deep belief. Why? Why do I want to live a meaningful life, grow, and inspire others? Answer, because I want to feel that my life matters, that I contributed something positive to the world, even in a small way, and that I lived fully with no regrets. This is the big why, your mission, your life purpose. See what happened? We started with, I want to learn English, and ended up at the level of personal values and life meaning. When you realize that every hour you spend learning English isn't just about making more money, but about building independence, setting an example for your children, and living a meaningful, regret-free life, suddenly your motivation becomes much stronger. Once you've found your big why, bring it into your everyday actions. When you feel lazy and want to skip the gym, remember that you're not just working out for a nice body, external motivation. You're building long-term health so you can live longer, have the energy to play with your kids, do your work well, and follow your passions all the way to the end, your big why. Suddenly those gym shoes don't feel so heavy anymore. When you're faced with a tough, boring task at work, don't just think about the deadline or the paycheck, external motivation. Remember that this task is a stepping stone to developing your skills, creating products or services that help people, proving your capabilities, and eventually earning the freedom, financial and time freedom, to pursue the higher values you uncovered in the 5 Whys exercise. Every small action, cleaning your house, answering emails, learning a new skill, becomes a brick. You're laying in the construction of your own cathedral. The cathedral called your life. Intrinsic motivation isn't a switch you simply flip on or off. It's an ongoing practice of reconnecting with your core values. It requires self-awareness, honesty with yourself, and a bit of courage to dig into what truly matters to you. Remember, the external world can change. Rewards come and go, but that deep inner why, your core value, will always be there. It's the lighthouse that guides you through every storm. It's the sustainable source of energy that helps you keep moving forward. Try the 5 Whys exercise with any goal you're working on right now. Write it down or say it out loud. Don't be afraid to go deep. You might be surprised by what you discover. I hope this chapter 5 has given you a fresh perspective on motivation and how to tap into your own renewable source of energy. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to create effective habits that reinforce your intrinsic motivation and help you stay on track for the long term. Hello, my amazing friends. Welcome back to Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World, the audiobook or video series we've been exploring together. Today we're diving into a topic that I believe every single one of us needs to master: the art of building habits. And I call this chapter, Chapter 6, Building Habits. Becoming the architect of your future. Have you ever wondered why there are things you want to do but keep putting off, while the things you shouldn't do somehow happen on autopilot? Why starting a good habit feels so hard? Yet, breaking a bad one feels like a never-ending battle. Well, don't worry. You're not alone. And here's the good news. This isn't a weak willpower problem. Most of it comes down to understanding and applying the right psychology. Habits are not just repeated actions. They're invisible tracks. Your life runs on the bricks that build your future, one day at a time. And today, we're going to learn how to become the master architect of those bricks. 1. The cue, routine, reward loop, understanding the machine inside you. To begin, we need to understand the machine behind every habit. Charles Duhigg, author of the classic, The Power of Habit, broke this down into what he calls the habit loop, made of 3 essential parts: cue, routine, reward. Picture it like this. Cue is the trigger, the signal that tells your brain, hey, it's time to do X. It might be a feeling stress, boredom, a location, the kitchen, your desk, a time of day, a person, or even an action that happened just before. Routine is the behavior, the action you take when the cue appears. It could be physical, grabbing a snack, mental worrying, or emotional, getting irritated. Reward is the payoff, the thing your brain likes enough to remember the behavior next time. It could be relaxation, pleasure, distraction, connection, or just feeling full. For example, you're working and start to feel stressed, cue. You grab your phone and scroll Instagram or TikTok, routine. You feel a tiny bit relaxed or amused, reward. Next time stress hits, your brain will push you toward the same routine. Or a positive example. Your alarm rings, cue. You get up, put on your shoes, and go for a quick run, routine. You feel energized, lighter, and proud of yourself, reward. Why does understanding the loop matter? Because when you want to change a bad habit, you can't just stop doing it. You need to identify the cue and the reward and replace the routine in between. For example, instead of scrolling your phone when stressed, you might try deep breathing, a short walk, or listening to a favorite song. Same cue, same reward, healthier routine. 2. The 2-minute rule, breaking through the barrier of getting started. Okay, so now we know how habits work. But how do you start a good habit without needing superhuman willpower? James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, gives us one of the most powerful strategies ever created. The 2-minute rule. The idea is beautifully simple. When building a new habit, make sure it can be done in under 2 minutes. Sounds silly, right? But that silliness is exactly what makes it genius. Want to read more? Read 1 page. Want to exercise daily? Do 1 push-up or walk for 2 minutes. Want to write consistently? Write 1 sentence. Want to clean your home? Clean 1 surface. Why does this work so well? 1. It eliminates the hardest part, starting. The first step is the biggest barrier. 2 minutes feels effortless. 2. It builds consistency. The goal isn't immediate results, it's identity. Every day you show up even for 2 minutes, you teach your brain, this is who I am now. 3. It shapes identity. Read 1 page. I'm a reader. Do 1 push-up. I'm someone who works out. Write 1 sentence. I'm a writer. And here's the magic. Once you start, you almost always do more. But even on days you don't, you still win. 3. Designing your environment. Build a space that builds you. We've covered the habit loop and the 2-minute rule. Now let's talk about how to make habits stick almost automatically. This is where environment design becomes powerful. Your environment is a silent architect, constantly shaping your behavior, often without you noticing. If you want good habits to stick, make them easier. If you want bad habits to fade, make them harder. Make good habits easy. Make them obvious. Want to drink more water? Keep a water bottle right on your desk. Want to work out? Put your workout clothes by your bed the night before. Want to eat more fruit? Put a bowl of fresh fruit in the center of the kitchen table. Reduce friction. Want to read more? Keep your book on your pillow or nightstand. Want to meditate? Keep your meditation cushion in your favorite corner. Want to walk in the morning? Have your shoes waiting by the door. Make bad habits difficult. Make them less visible. Want to stop doom scrolling, leave your phone in another room, or flip it face down? Want to eat fewer sweets? Don't buy them, or at least hide them out of sight. Want to watch less TV? Unplug the TV, or remove the remote batteries. Increase friction. Want to game less? Uninstall the game, or bury the icon in a hidden folder. Want fewer toxic conversations? Mute or unfollow certain accounts. Think of your home and workspace like a stage. You're the director, and you get to place the props in ways that help you perform the role you want to play. And there you have it, my friends. We've covered 3 incredibly powerful psychological principles for building and changing habits. 1. Understanding the cue, routine, reward loop. Cost. Using the 2-minute rule to defeat resistance and build consistency. 3. Designing your environment to make good habits easy and bad habits difficult. Remember, you are the architect of your future. Every small habit you build today is a brick in the foundation of who you'll become tomorrow. Never underestimate the power of small actions. They are exactly what create extraordinary results over time. Try applying just one of these principles today. Start a tiny 2-minute habit. Redesign one part of your environment. You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. My dear friends, have you ever felt like you were talking to a wall, or worse, talking at someone, instead of actually talking with them? Or maybe you've gone home after a conversation and thought, what did I even say back there? Did they actually understand me? Or why do I feel like that person wasn't really listening to me at all? If those feelings sound familiar, you are definitely not alone. Communication seems instinctive, but in reality, it's an art, a skill that needs to be sharpened over time. And that is exactly what we're going to dig into today. In this video series, exploring the book Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World, we've already gone through several chapters on understanding ourselves and the world around us. Today, we're stepping into Chapter 7, Influence Through Communication. Listen to be heard. Our goal isn't just to talk so that others can hear us, but to use psychology to improve the way we communicate, strengthen our relationships, and build deeper connections with the people around us. So, how do we turn shallow, surface-level conversations into meaningful moments? How do we make it so that people don't just hear our words, but actually feel our presence and our understanding? The secret lies in 3 core pillars that I truly believe, if you practice them, will significantly change your life. 1. The principle of rapport building invisible bridges. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you meet a complete stranger, but you just click right away? There's this invisible thread connecting the two of you, and the conversation just flows natural, easy, as if you've known each other for years. That's rapport. In psychology, rapport is a state of mutual connection and understanding, often happening unconsciously, created through body language and tone of voice. This is not about obvious fake mimicry. It's about subtle natural mirroring. Picture it like this: when 2 instruments are tuned to the same frequency, they resonate with each other. We humans work the same way. Body language. If the person in front of you is leaning forward slightly, you can also lean in just a bit. If they're crossing their arms in a relaxed way, you can discreetly mirror that posture. If they smile, respond with a genuine smile. This subtle mirroring sends an unconscious signal to their brain. We're similar. It feels safe being around this person. It creates a sense of familiarity and trust. I remember once trying to persuade a pretty tough business partner. I noticed he often rubbed his chin when he was thinking. At first, I didn't do anything. But later, almost unconsciously, I also brought my hand to my chin while considering a point. Maybe it was coincidence, maybe not. But right after that, the atmosphere relaxed a lot, and we found common ground much more easily. Tone of voice and pace of speaking. If the other person speaks slowly and in a calm, low tone, you probably shouldn't respond at high speed and high volume. Try adjusting your pace, volume, and tone so they match the other person's energy. That doesn't mean changing who you are. It means being flexible with how you express yourself. When you do this, you're stepping into their world, and that makes them feel understood and respected. Then, once rapport is established, you can gently start to guide the rhythm of the conversation toward your own pace, and everything becomes much easier. This principle of rapport isn't just useful in business or negotiation. It's incredibly powerful in your personal relationships too. When you're in sync with someone, a lot of barriers just naturally fall away. 2. The power of active listening. Listening to understand, not just to reply. This is probably one of the most important skills we overlook. Most of us, when we're in a conversation, aren't really listening to understand. We're listening to wait for our turn to speak. Or worse, we're listening so we can argue back and prove we're right. I used to be like that too. There were times when, while someone else was talking, my brain was already busy drafting my response. And what happens when we do that? We miss important information. We miss the emotions behind the words. And the other person walks away feeling unseen and unheard. Active listening is not just staying quiet while the other person talks. It's an intentional process, a full-body, full-mind engagement, and it requires real focus and a genuine desire to understand the other person. Give your full attention. Put your phone down. Turn your body toward them. Maintain comfortable eye contact, not a stare down. Nod, give small or yes signals so they know you're following. Don't interrupt. Let them finish their thought. Your presence, even without words, is already a powerful sign of respect. Listen for feelings, not just words. Sometimes what isn't said is more important than what is. A worried look, a shaky tone, a sudden pause or silence. Try to sense what might be going on inside them. Ask yourself, if I were in their position, how would I feel? Reflect and clarify verbal affirmations. When they're done speaking, don't rush to give advice or solutions. First, reflect back what you heard in your own words, or ask a clarifying question. For example, so you're feeling pretty disappointed about how that project turned out, right? Or, if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is, this doesn't just help you confirm you heard them accurately, it also shows them that you really listened. They feel seen. They feel heard. And that is a basic human need. When you practice active listening, you're not just gathering information. You're building a reservoir of trust and connection. Everyone wants to be listened to. And when you truly listen to them, they'll be much more willing to listen to you. That's what it means to listen to be heard. 3. Using open-ended questions to invite sharing and understanding. Once you've built rapport and are practicing active listening, then the next step to deepening a conversation is asking the right kinds of questions. Forget about questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no. We need open-ended questions. Open-ended questions can't be answered with just one word. They invite the other person to share more, think deeper, and reveal their feelings. Instead of asking, "Do you like your job?" the answer could be just yes or no. Try asking, "What do you enjoy most about your job? And what's the most challenging part?" Or walk me through what a typical workday looks like for you. See the difference? The second question opens the door to a whole story. Instead of asking, "Did you have a good day?" try asking, "What made today stand out for you?" Or was there anything today that really stuck with you or made you think? The benefits of open-ended questions. 1. They encourage sharing. The other person feels invited to express their thoughts, feelings, and experiences, not just report facts. 2. They show genuine interest. You're not just asking out of politeness, you're signaling that you truly want to know what's going on inside their world. 3. They give you richer information. You get more context, more details, more perspectives, that's all of which help you understand them better. 4. They build empathy and understanding. As they open up, you get more opportunities to practice active listening and deepen the connection. When I was younger, I used to think that to impress people, I had to talk a lot, show how smart I was. But eventually, I learned something invaluable. The people who leave the strongest impression, the ones everybody loves to be around, are usually the best listeners. They're the ones who ask good questions, make you feel like you're the most important person in the room. And that's a feeling everyone craves. So there you have it, my friends. Rapport, alignment, and connection. Active listening. Listening to truly understand. Open-ended questions. Inviting depth instead of shallow answers. These three principles aren't just communication hacks. They're expressions of respect, genuine curiosity, and a real desire to connect. Using psychology in communication isn't about manipulating people. It's about creating more meaningful interactions, building stronger relationships, and making your world richer, just like the title of the book, Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World. Try using these in your very next conversation. Start with something small, a genuine look in the eyes, a simple open-ended question, or just staying quiet and truly listening. You might be surprised by how much changes. Remember, communication is a two-way street. When you make the effort to understand others, you're also opening the door for them to understand you. And that's the foundation of every good relationship. Thank you so much for spending your time with me in Chapter 7. Leave a comment below and share your own experiences with communication or any questions you might have. I'd really love to hear from you. Don't forget to share this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming chapters as we continue this journey through applied psychology together. I'll see you in the next chapters. This is Chapter 8, Breaking Through Your Limits, Facing Your Fears. Sounds a little intimidating, right? But trust me, this is one of the most powerful chapters where we'll equip ourselves with practical psychological tools to not only recognize, but actually overcome the limiting beliefs and fears that are stopping us from truly creating a world of our own. You know, fear is a built-in part of being human. It's been with us since the dawn of humanity, helping us survive and evolve. But not every kind of fear is your friend. We need to learn how to tell the difference between a loyal protector and a quiet saboteur. Imagine you're crossing a busy street. A bus comes barreling toward you at high speed. Your body reacts instantly. Your heart races. Adrenaline spikes you. Jump back onto the curb, and you're safe. That's healthy fear. It's your built-in alarm system helping you avoid real danger, protecting you from situations that could physically hurt you. That kind of fear is necessary. It's a good friend. It reminds you to wear your seatbelt, to double-check before changing lanes, to be careful when you're making big decisions. But then, there are other kinds of fear. Fears that don't come from a speeding bus, but from a tiny voice in your head. A voice that whispers, "Don't share your opinion. No one cares what you think. Don't start that business. You're just going to fail. Don't tell them how you feel. They'll reject you. Don't apply for that job. You're not good enough." That's limiting fear. It's not protecting you from physical danger. It's locking you inside an invisible cage of what if, and I can't. It keeps you safe, but so safe that you never experience growth, adventure, or the incredible opportunities that live outside your comfort zone. That fear isn't a guardian, it's a prison guard. I remember when I wanted to start this YouTube channel. The idea had been living in my head for years, but every time I sat down to write a script or record a video, this invisible fear would show up. People are going to judge how you sound. This content probably isn't interesting enough. No one's going to watch your videos anyway. So I procrastinated over and over again. That was limiting fear at work. It wasn't saving me from getting hit by a truck. It was stopping me from going after something I deeply wanted. So how do we remove those invisible chains? How do we face the monsters that only exist in our own minds? One of the most powerful tools I've learned from Tim Ferriss, someone I deeply admire and have mentioned many times on this channel, is an exercise called fear setting. This isn't a traditional psychology term, but it is an incredibly effective method for facing and shrinking your fears. Think of fear like a monster in a dark room. It's scariest when you can't really see it, when all you hear are growls, and your imagination fills in the worst-case picture. Fear setting is like turning on the lights. You look straight at the monster, and most of the time you realize it's not nearly as terrifying as you thought. This exercise has 3 main columns, and you'll need a piece of paper and a pen to do it. Let's walk through it together. Column 1. Define. What's the worst that could happen? This is where you allow yourself to imagine the worst-case scenario. If the thing you're afraid of actually happened, what's the absolute worst that could realistically go wrong? Be specific, don't just write something vague. For example, let's say you're afraid of starting a new business. What's the worst that could happen? I could lose the money I invested. My friends and family might think I'm unrealistic or foolish. I could damage my professional reputation. I might have to go back to a job I really don't like. Write all of it down, everything. Even if it sounds dramatic, embarrassing, or unlikely, put it on paper. The goal is to drag all those shadowy fears out into the light. Column 2. Prevent. How can I reduce the chances of that happening? Now that you've defined the worst-case scenarios, the next question is, what can you do to reduce the likelihood of those things actually happening? What preventive steps can you take? Continuing our business example. So I don't lose all my savings, I'll only invest a small, calculated amount at first. I'll test the idea on a small scale. I'll look for outside funding or partnerships. I'll have a basic financial backup plan. So I'm not laughed at, I'll only share my plans with supportive people at the beginning. I'll focus on doing the work and getting results instead of worrying about opinions. So I don't ruin my reputation. I'll act with integrity, communicate clearly, and treat this as a professional experiment. I'll be transparent and learn from mistakes if they happen. So I don't get stuck going back to the same old job. I'll keep my skills sharp, maintain my professional network, and have a plan B for income. This step gives you back a sense of control. When you see how much you can do to prevent the worst from happening, your fear starts to shrink. Column 3. Repair. If the worst did happen, how could I recover? This column is all about your ability to bounce back. If hypothetically the worst really did happen, what could you do to repair the situation or recover afterward? Is there a way back? Back to our business example. If I lose my savings, I can pick up a side job, cut expenses for a while, learn better financial management, and ask a mentor or expert for advice. If people make fun of me, I can accept that not everyone will support my choices, focus on the people who do, and use it as fuel to grow thicker skin. If my reputation takes a hit, I can rebuild it over time by doing solid work, being reliable, and showing that I learned from the experience. If I have to go back to my old job, I can treat it as a temporary step. Take the lessons I learned and use them to find or create a better opportunity later. The power of writing all this down is huge. When you see your options on paper, you realize that even if the worst-case scenario happened, it still wouldn't be the end of the world. You can recover. You can learn. You can rebuild. I used this exact exercise when I decided to quit my job and go all in on YouTube and my personal projects. The fear of not having a stable income was huge. But when I did fear setting, when I wrote out the worst possibilities and how I'd handle them, the fear didn't vanish completely, but it became much smaller. It stopped being a brick wall and turned into a hurdle I could realistically clear. Fear setting is powerful for big fears and major life decisions. But what about the smaller, everyday fears, the ones that keep us stuck in our comfort zone? We often think that to overcome fear, we have to take some massive leap, huge, bold action. But honestly, that can be overwhelming and sometimes makes the fear even worse. Instead, think about stretching your comfort zone little by little. Your comfort zone is like a rubber band. If you yank it too hard too fast, it can snap. But if you gently stretch it a little more each day, it gradually becomes wider and more flexible without breaking. The principle here is small actions, one step at a time. If you are afraid of public speaking, don't start with a TED Talk. Start by asking one question in a small meeting with a few coworkers. Then maybe volunteer to share a short update. Bit by bit, your confidence grows. If you're afraid to start a new hobby like learning an instrument, drawing, or writing, don't tell yourself you have to spend 2 hours a day on it. Commit to just 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes practicing chords. 5 minutes sketching. 5 minutes writing a short paragraph. Very quickly, 5 minutes becomes 15, then 30. And before you know it, you've moved past that initial wall. If you're afraid to say no or turn down invitations, Start with low-pressure situations. Say no to a social event you don't really want to go to instead of starting with a high-stakes work situation. Each tiny action, each small step outside your comfort zone is a win. It sends a powerful message to your brain. I can handle this. It's not as scary as I thought. And even more importantly, it builds evidence. You're not just hyping yourself up. You have real experiences proving you can do hard things. Remember, progress is almost never a straight line. There will be days when you feel discouraged, days when you want to retreat back into your comfort zone. That's completely normal. Don't beat yourself up. Just start again tomorrow, even if it's with the smallest possible step. I remember when I first started making YouTube videos, talking to the camera felt like torture. I was afraid of being judged, afraid of sounding awkward, afraid of not knowing what to say. So I started tiny. I recorded a 30-second clip just introducing myself and watched it back. Then I recorded a 1-minute video talking about a book. Slowly, I increased the length and complexity. It didn't happen overnight. It was a journey made of hundreds of tiny steps. And now speaking to the camera feels almost natural. So now we've got two incredibly powerful weapons in our fight against limiting fear. Unravel. Tim Ferriss's fear-setting exercise. To stare down the worst-case scenarios, define them clearly, and figure out how to prevent and repair them. 2. The principle of small incremental action. To gently expand your comfort zone, build confidence, and collect real proof that you can do more than you thought. Remember, the goal is not to erase fear completely. Healthy fear is important. The goal is to make sure fear isn't driving your life, that it's not the one calling the shots and blocking you from doing the things that matter most to you, the things that will help you truly make your own world. Try using these tools. Pick one small fear you're dealing with right now or a goal you've been putting off because you're scared. Do a fear-setting exercise on it. Or simply commit to one tiny action a day, even just 5 minutes. Share your experience in the comments. I'd really love to hear your story. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into building resilience and developing a positive attitude toward failure. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think. I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to the series, Applied Psychology Building Your Own World. If you've been following from the beginning, you've probably started to feel the power of intentionally shaping your mindset and your experiences. We've talked about recognizing old thought patterns, about creating reality from the inside out, and about the importance of personal awareness. And today, we're stepping into a new chapter 1 that I believe can dramatically accelerate your growth. This is Chapter 9, Modeling Success, Learning from Those Who Went Before You. Sounds a little academic, right? But don't worry, this concept is incredibly practical and powerful. Modeling isn't some complicated term reserved for scientists. It's a life skill. It's an art that almost every highly successful person in the world uses in one way or another, whether they realize it or not. You know, one of the biggest mistakes we tend to make when we want to achieve something new, whether it's a new skill, a career milestone, or even a certain mental or emotional state, is trying to figure everything out from scratch. We grind, we experiment, we stumble, we get back up, and repeat, over and over in a loop that can burn a lot of time and energy. But think about this. What if someone has already walked that path? What if they've faced similar challenges and figured out how to overcome them brilliantly? And what if we could decode how they think, how they behave, and the core values that guide them? That's what modeling gives us. It's not blind copying. It's a structured way of learning, a way of reading the blueprint of people who have built something great. However, there's one extremely important point we need to make clear right away. Just copying the outer behavior is not enough. In fact, it can backfire. Picture this. You admire a Michelin star chef. You see him in a crisp, white jacket using a specific brand of knife, always dropping deep philosophical lines about food. You decide to buy the same jacket, the same knife, and even repeat his quotes. Do you suddenly become a world-class chef? Of course not. Your food might be edible, but it's probably not going to have the soul, the finesse, and the unique flavor that built his reputation. Why? Because you're copying the visible result not the invisible process. You're looking at the tip of the iceberg and ignoring the massive structure underneath. Life works the same way. People see Steve Jobs wearing a black turtleneck, so they wear one too. They see Mark Zuckerberg wearing a mask or hoodie walking down the street, so they do the same. They hear that a successful person wakes up at 4 a.m., so they force themselves to do it too. But they never ask, why do they do those things? What do they believe that makes those actions meaningful? What mental strategies are driving those behaviors? If you only copy what someone does on the surface, without understanding the invisible architecture underneath their beliefs, values, and thinking patterns, those actions will feel empty, won't last, and almost never produce the same results. We don't just want to walk the same road they did. We want to understand the internal map they used to draw that road. So how do we model someone effectively in a way that's deep, systematic, and actually useful? Here are a few steps you can follow to decode a role model's success. Step 1. Choose your role model strategically. Not everyone is the right model for everything. You want to succeed in business, look for an entrepreneur. You want better mental health. Look for someone who's been through real psychological struggles and shares their insights wisely. Be specific about the area you want to grow in. Pick someone you truly admire, not just for their outward success, but for their process, character, and values. Don't just choose the richest or most famous person in the room. Choose someone whose approach you respect, someone you genuinely want to learn from. Use multiple sources of information. Read their biographies, watch interviews, listen to podcasts, read their posts or talks. Don't rely on just one article or one viral quote. Step 2. Observe and document relentlessly. This goes much deeper than just watch what they do. Take detailed notes. When you watch or read something about your role model, don't just consume it passively. Write down key quotes, turning points in their life, how they reacted to failure and success. Look for patterns. Do they have habits that show up again and again? Is there something unique about how they handle pressure? Do they seem to follow a certain sequence when they solve problems? Pay close attention to their language. How do they talk about the world, about themselves, about challenges and opportunities? Language reveals deep beliefs. For example, someone who often says, "What can we learn from this?" instead of, "This is a disaster," is showing a strong belief in growth and learning. Step 3. Dig into the why. Decode their core beliefs and values. This is the heart of modeling. This is where we get into the underwater part of the iceberg. Beliefs. What do they believe about themselves, about their abilities, about the world, about other people? For example, do they believe that every problem has a solution? Do they believe that skills can always be developed, a growth mindset? Do they believe that effort is always rewarded eventually? Do they believe they deserve success? Ask yourself, what beliefs helped them push through that tough season? What beliefs gave them the courage to take big risks? Values. What genuinely matters most to them? What sits at the top of their priority list, even when things get hard? For example, integrity, innovation, service, freedom, continuous learning, relationships, contribution to the community. Ask yourself, when they had to make a hard choice, what did they protect? What line will they never cross? You'll start to see that their actions are consistent with these core beliefs and values. Once you understand those, their behavior stops being mysterious. It starts to make sense. Step 4. Identify their strategies and mental frameworks. Once you understand their beliefs and values, it becomes easier to spot their strategies and how they structure their thinking. Action strategies. Do they have a specific process for setting goals, for making decisions, for solving problems, for managing their time, or building relationships? For example, do they use something like SMART goals? Are they meticulous planners, or do they experiment and iterate fast? Do they build their own feedback systems? Mental frameworks. What mental models do they use? How do they approach information, analyze situations, or see the big picture? For example, do they think from first principles, breaking things down to fundamentals? Do they often ask, what if, and explore scenarios? Do they focus more on creating value than just maximizing short-term profit? Step 5. Experiment and adapt. This is where you bring all of it into your life. Don't copy-paste. You're not them. Your context, personality, resources, and environment are different. Use what you've decoded as a starting point, not a script you have to follow word for word. Adapt to your reality. A strategy that works for them may need tweaks to fit your situation. The key is to start with their principles and then adjust the details. Watch what happens. As you apply a new belief, value, or strategy, pay attention. Do you feel stronger, more aligned? Are your results improving? Do you feel more energized and purposeful? For me, modeling wasn't just theory. It completely changed my journey. I used to think that to create meaningful, valuable content, I had to invent everything from scratch, to be so original that no one was anything like me. That belief burned me out and left me feeling stuck. Then I started really studying the creators I admired, not just their YouTube channels, but how they plan videos, how they research, how they tell stories, how they show up for their audience, and most importantly, what they believe about sharing knowledge. I realized many of them shared a core belief in serving first and giving value long before expecting anything in return. When I adopted that belief and experimented with their strategies, like how they structure their narratives or use metaphors, I didn't turn into them. Instead, I developed my own style that worked far better, and I felt much more connected to my work. Modeling is not about becoming someone else. It's about using their wisdom and experience as a springboard so you can go further faster on a stronger foundation. All right, time to get practical. Right now, I want you to take a little time, either right after this video or even by pausing it, and try this challenge. 1. Pick one role model. It could be a historical figure, a successful entrepreneur, an artist, a scientist, a mentor, a family member, anyone you truly admire in one specific area of life. Be honest and specific. 2. Identify 3 core things about them, habits, mindsets, or beliefs. Based on what you already know or with a quick bit of research, try to go deeper than surface level. Ask yourself, what do they do every day? Habits. How do they think about themselves and the world mindset? Self-beliefs. What really drives them? Core values. For example, if you choose Elon Musk, you might say, 1. A fierce belief in solving big, meaningful problems for humanity. 2. A habit of working with intense focus and being willing to take massive risks. 3. A first principles way of thinking, always breaking things down to the basics. Write it down, or at least think it through very clearly. And if you're comfortable, share your role model and your 3 core observations in the comments. We can all learn from each other's perspectives. Modeling success is a powerful tool and ethical shortcut that helps you reach your goals faster and more effectively. It lets you stand on the shoulders of giants, using their insights to expand your own vision. You don't have to be a genius to do extraordinary things. You can learn how geniuses think and act, and then apply those patterns in your own unique way. Remember, you're building your world. Modeling is how you collect the best blueprints, proven principles you can use to build a life that's solid, meaningful, and truly your own. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next chapter, where we'll explore how to apply all of this to creating meaningful relationships in your life. Welcome back to our journey through applied psychology, making your own world. We've walked through so many chapters together, from decoding how the mind works, to understanding habits and emotions, to the art of building relationships and breaking through inner barriers. And now we've arrived at chapter 10, the final chapter, and also the most important one: integration and living with intention. If the previous chapters were about understanding the tools and mastering the principles, then this chapter is about weaving everything together, like placing the final pieces into a big picture to create a complete life philosophy. A philosophy where you're no longer a passive receiver of whatever life throws at you, but the creator, the architect of your own world. Sounds big, right? But trust me, it's absolutely within your reach. We've learned that the outer world is a mirror of your inner world. So if you can intentionally shape your inner world, you can change your outer reality. But how do you do that consistently on purpose instead of randomly? That's where we need a compass. 1. How to create a simple personal mission statement. When you hear mission statement, you might immediately think of big corporations, long strategic documents, and stiff formal language. Let's throw all of that out the window. Your personal mission statement is much simpler, and it's not for anyone else but you. It's the compass that guides your decisions and your actions. It answers the core questions. Who are you? What do you believe in? And what do you want to create with your life? Think of it as a short summary of who you are at your best. It's not a to-do list. It's a description of the kind of person you want to be. To create a simple personal mission statement, I'd like you to take about 15 to 20 minutes somewhere quiet and ask yourself a few questions. What really matters to me? Family growth, freedom, helping others, creativity, learning. What core values do I want to live by every day? Honesty, resilience, compassion, curiosity. What kind of impact do I want to make in this life? Big or small, inspire others, connect people, solve problems, spread joy. Don't worry about getting it perfect on the first try. Just write down the first ideas that honestly come to you. Then try to condense them into 2 to 3 short, clear sentences. For example, someone might write, I am someone who is always learning and growing. I believe in the power of kindness and connection, and I want to use my knowledge to help people live more meaningful lives. Or even simpler, I live with integrity, courage, and compassion, and I always look for ways to create positive value in every interaction. You see, it doesn't have to sound fancy. What matters is that it honestly reflects who you want to be and what you stand for. Once you've written your mission statement, write it down somewhere visible on your desk, in your wallet, on your phone wallpaper. Let it be a constant reminder of who you want to become and a filter for the choices you make every day. 2. The importance of daily, weekly self-reflection. There's one tool that's more powerful than almost anything else we've talked about when it comes to staying intentional and continuously growing self-reflection. Self-reflection doesn't have to mean meditating for hours, though. That can be great too. It doesn't mean overanalyzing every tiny detail of your day. It simply means taking a few minutes each day or a longer block each week to pause, look back, and learn. Think of it this way. If a ship wants to reach its destination, it has to regularly check the map, adjust its course for the wind and currents. Your life is no different. Self-reflection is you checking the map of your life. So how do we actually do it? You can take 5 to 10 minutes each night before bed, or maybe 30 minutes once a week at the end of the week with a notebook or a notes app. Ask yourself a few simple questions. What went well today? This week? Small wins, happy moments, positive lesson. What didn't go so well? And what would I do differently if I could do it again? Not to beat yourself up, but to learn. What did I learn? About myself, about others, about the world. Did my actions line up with my personal mission statement? This is where the two tools connect. Is there anything I want to adjust or change for tomorrow? And next week. Self-reflection creates space between what happens and how you react. It helps you see your patterns in your behavior and emotions so you can make conscious choices instead of running on autopilot. It's like having an honest conversation with yourself, a chance to understand yourself better, and most importantly, to grow. Personally, I often do this with a journal and a cup of tea in the morning or evening. It's a quiet moment I really treasure. 3. Reaffirming the core message. Life is not what happens to you, it's how you choose to respond. Now let's come back to the core message that runs through this entire book, the life philosophy I want you to carry with you after this final chapter. Life is not what happens to you, it's how you choose to respond. We've explored how your thoughts, beliefs, habits, and emotions shape your world. We've learned how to face challenges, build resilience, and search for meaning. All of that revolves around one central point, the power of choice. You can't control the weather. You can't stop unexpected events from crashing into your life. There will be sunny days. There will be storms. There will be surprises you never saw coming. That's just part of being alive. But you absolutely can control how you interpret those events, how you face them, and how you choose to act. When a challenge shows up, do you see it as an impossible wall or as an opportunity to learn and grow? When you fail, do you choose to give up? Or do you stand back up, take the lesson, and move forward? When negative emotions show up, do you let them drown you? Or do you use the tools you've learned to manage and transform them? Your personal mission statement tells you who you want to be in the face of challenges. Self-reflection helps you see how you actually responded and how you can do better next time. And all of that lives inside one circle, your choices. You are the captain of your ship, not a leaf being tossed around by the current. You have a compass, your mission statement. You have a map, your self-reflection. And most importantly, you have your hands on the wheel, your response. This is not the end of the book. This is the beginning of your life, a life lived on purpose, a world that you are actively creating. Start writing your mission statement. Give yourself time for self-reflection every day or every week. And above all, remember your greatest power is the ability to choose how you respond to life. I truly believe that with these tools, you won't just get by. You'll actually live and live in a way that feels meaningful and full. Your world is waiting for you to build it. Be brave, be intentional, and build a life you genuinely want to live. Thank you for walking this journey with me. I can't wait to hear about the incredible worlds you create. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I'd love to read them. I know. Concepts like inner language reframing or emotional anchoring can sound super exciting. But sometimes we finish a great book nod along an agreement. And then just move on. Knowledge only really turns into power when we actually use it, right? So I want us to step into a little challenge together. A challenge that I truly believe will help you start building your own world right away, step by step. This is not a test. It's a 7-day journey of self-discovery and self-empowerment. You ready? Grab a notebook or open the Notes app on your phone. We're going to need it. This challenge is designed to help you practice the principles we just talked about. Each day is one small step, but when you put them together, they create a meaningful shift in how you see and interact with the world around you. Days 1 and 2. Observe and notice. These first 2 days are about becoming a scientist of your own mind. Your mission is to observe and record. Specifically, track your inner self-talk. We talk to ourselves more than we talk to anyone else. But have you ever really listened to that conversation? Over the next 48 hours, pay close attention to what you say to yourself. When you're disappointed, what do you say? When you face a hard task, what's your first thought? When you look in the mirror, what do you see and what do you say about yourself? How to do it? Anytime you notice a negative thought, a limiting belief, or even a surprisingly positive thought, write it down in your notebook. Don't judge it, just record it. For example, I'm starting to feel anxious about this presentation again. I probably can't do this. Or on the positive side, I actually did a pretty good job on that. Goal: to raise your awareness of the script you've been writing for your life inside your own mind. Notice what you focus on. Your world is shaped by what you pay attention to. If you constantly focus on bad news annoyances or your flaws, that becomes the world you're living in. If instead you look for positive moments, opportunities, and things to be grateful for, your world looks very different. How to do it? Whenever you start a new activity, meet someone, or simply walk through the park, ask yourself, what am I paying attention to right now? What's pulling my focus? Write down at least 3 things you focused on each day, positive or negative. It could be a stranger's smile, a mistake you made, a random idea that popped into your head. Goal: to see how your mental filter is shaping your reality. You are the director of the movie of your life, and your attention is the camera lens. For these first 2 days, be an explorer. No judging, just observing. You might be surprised by what you discover. Days 3 and 4, experiment and adjust. Awesome. Now that you have a clearer picture of your inner world and your focus patterns, it's time to experiment and adjust. This is where you start rewriting the script. Practice reframing. Go back to your notebook. Look through the negative thoughts or unhelpful focus points you wrote down from days 1 and 2. Now pick at least 3 of them. For each one, try to look at it from a different angle. How to do it. If you wrote, "This presentation is terrifying," reframe it as, "This presentation is a chance for me to share what I've learned and get feedback." If you wrote, "I made such a stupid mistake," reframe it as, "This is a valuable lesson that will help me grow." Reframing is not about denying reality. It's about finding a perspective that gives you more energy, more hope, or more meaning. Goal: to train your mind to shift perspectives, turning challenges into opportunities, or at least softening the negative emotional impact. Practice emotional anchoring. Emotional anchoring is a powerful way to trigger a positive emotional state on demand. How to do it. Choose a powerful emotional state. Confidence, calm, joy. Focus whatever you want to access more easily. Recall a moment in your past when you felt that emotion very strongly. Relive it in your mind. What did you see around you? What did you hear? How did your body feel? Where did that feeling start in your body? And how did it spread? When the feeling is at its peak, create an anchor. Gently clench your fist. Press your thumb and index finger together. Tap your leg in a specific way. Choose a small, unique action you don't normally do. Repeat practice this 3-5 times on days 3 and 4. Each time you relive the memory and feel the emotion rise, fire the same anchor. Later, when you need confidence or calm, trigger that anchor and notice what happens. Goal: to create your own emotional switch so you can access positive states more easily when you need them. Remember, these are experiments. There's no perfect or correct outcome. What matters is that you try and feel the difference. Days 5 and 6, act and build. We're heading into the weekend of this challenge. Now it's time to turn insight and experiments into concrete actions and start actually building the world you want. Start a new habit with the 2-minute rule. I'm sure there's at least one good habit you've been wanting to build. Reading more, exercising, learning a language, journaling, meditating. Most of the time, we don't start because it feels too big, too time-consuming, too hard. The 2-minute rule changes that. How to do it. Pick one habit you want to build, then shrink it down into a version that takes 2 minutes or less. Instead of "I'll read 30 minutes every day," I'll read 1 page a day. Instead of "I'll work out for an hour," I'll put on my workout clothes and do 2 push-ups. Instead of "I'll meditate 15 minutes," I'll sit quietly and focus on my breath for 1 minute. Goal: to break through resistance and procrastination and build momentum. Once you start, you'll often do more than 2 minutes. But even if you don't, you still win because you showed up and reinforced the habit. Practice active listening. The way we communicate shapes the quality of our relationships and our entire world. Active listening is a seriously powerful skill. How to do it. On days 5 and 6, choose at least one conversation with a family member, friend, or coworker to practice active listening. 1. Put your phone away. Turn off distractions. 2. Give them your full attention. Face them. Maintain natural eye contact. 3. Listen to understand, not to reply. Don't interrupt. Don't rush to give advice. Try to step into their shoes. 4. Reflect back what you heard. So what you're saying is, right. It sounds like you're feeling really frustrated about. Then ask an open-ended question like, "Can you tell me more about that?" Goal: to deepen your connections, improve your communication, and understand the world through someone else's eyes. These small actions are the foundation of a richer, more intentional life. Day 7, reflect and plan. We've made it to day 7. This isn't the end, it's a pivot point. Day 7 is for reflection and planning. It's your chance to look back at the week and prepare for what comes next. Review your week. Set aside at least 30 minutes, just you and your notebook, and think through. What did you notice about your inner self-talk? Any patterns of negative thinking that really stood out? What did you tend to focus on the most this week? How did that make you feel? What thoughts or situations did you reframe? How did that change your experience? How did your emotional anchor work? When did you use it? What happened? How did your 2-minute habit go? Is it starting to feel easier to begin? With whom did you practice active listening? What did you learn from those conversations? What was the hardest part of this week for you? What are you most proud of? Set intentions for next week. Based on everything you've experienced and learned, set a few clear intentions for the coming week. Which 2-minute habit will you keep going? In what area do you want to get better at reframing? Will you create another emotional anchor or strengthen the one you already have? Is there any area of your life you now want to start shaping more consciously? Write these intentions down. Put them somewhere you'll see them every day. You see, creating your own world isn't about one huge dramatic event. It's a series of small intentional choices you make every day. This 7-day challenge is just the beginning. It's your ticket into the greatest adventure you'll ever go, on the adventure of discovering, shaping, and becoming you, and intentionally designing your inner and outer world. I genuinely believe you have everything it takes to do this. Every tiny step you take matters. Share your experience in the comments. What did you learn? What was the hardest part? What surprised you the most? I'd really love to hear your story. If you've been following the previous chapters, you probably know I've spent quite a bit of time living with this incredible book, Applied Psychology, Making Your Own World. To me, it's not just a book. It's like a roadmap, a field manual that shows us how to intentionally create the kind of world we want to live in. It's changed the way I look at myself, the way I look at life. And more importantly, it's given me practical tools I can actually use. But I also know not everyone has the time to sit down and read a thick book cover to cover. And sometimes, in the middle of a mountain of ideas, what we really need are anchors, a few core reminders that are simple, powerful, and easy to apply right away. That's exactly why this video exists. If I had to distill and compress the most valuable lessons from applied psychology, I'd boil it down to 3 golden keys. And I truly believe that if you hold on to these 3 keys, you'll have the power to actually take charge of your own world. Think of these not just as theories, but as powerful tools you can start using immediately. Golden key number 1. Your reality is shaped by your perception and your focus. Own them. Sounds a little philosophical, right? But think of it like this. Your reality is not some fixed, objective thing that everyone experiences the same way. It's shaped by how you see things, your perception, and where you place your attention, your focus. Imagine you're holding a camera with different lenses and filters. If you choose a lens that zooms in on flaws, problems, and worst-case scenarios, the picture of your world will be full of those things. Everything will feel heavy, dark, and stuck. But if you choose a lens that looks for opportunities, gratitude, and bright spots, suddenly the picture changes. Your world opens up. You start to see possibilities, solutions, and things worth appreciating. I remember a time when I was completely stressed out over a project that was running behind. All I could see was the deadline closing in, the risks piling up, and this looming sense of failure. That entire day felt like I was walking under a dark cloud. And surprise, everything around me seemed worse, because that's all I was focusing on. Then I reminded myself of this principle. Instead of obsessing over "I'm failing," I shifted my focus to, okay, what can I do right now to make this a little better? I started breaking things down into small steps, looking for options instead of problems. And like magic, my energy changed. I started seeing resources I hadn't noticed, new ideas started to show up, and the whole situation felt more manageable. Here's the lesson. We can't control everything that happens to us, but we absolutely can control how we perceive it and how we respond to it. You have the power to choose the lens on the camera of your life. So ask yourself, right now, what are you focusing on? Where is your perception tilted? Are you zooming in on what's broken or what's possible? Own that lens. Adjust it intentionally. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about consciously choosing a way of seeing the world that actually helps you grow and be happier. Golden key number 2. You have the power to deliberately influence your emotional state and your inner self-talk. Now we move to the second golden key, and honestly, if you really get this one, it can change your life. How many times have we felt like victims of our emotions? We say things like, I just can't control my temper. I don't know why I'm always sad. This is just how I am. This book taught me something incredibly powerful. You do have the ability to influence your emotional state on purpose. And one of the strongest tools you have is your inner language, that constant voice inside your head. Your inner self-talk can be your best friend, encouraging you, coaching you, guiding you. Or it can be your worst enemy, tearing you down, criticizing everything you do, feeding you negativity all day long. I remember times when I made a small mistake at work and that inner voice went all in on me. You're useless. How could you mess up something so simple? And of course, my mood crashed. I felt ashamed, discouraged, and totally drained of motivation. But after reading this book, I realized I could actually interrupt that conversation. Instead of taking that voice as the truth, I started challenging it. When that inner critic showed up, I'd pause and ask, is this really true? Is there another way to see this? Instead of saying I'm so stupid, I'd switch it to, this is a useful lesson. What did I learn from it? How can I do better next time? That tiny shift in language made a huge difference in how I felt. And your emotional state, it doesn't just happen to you. You can create it. Sounds wild, right? But psychology and neuroscience back this up. How you move your body, how you breathe, your facial expressions, all of that sends signals to your brain and can literally shift your chemistry. Sometimes simply standing up straighter, relaxing your shoulders, taking a few deep breaths, and giving yourself a small smile, even if it feels fake at first, can boost your energy and confidence. The key here is notice, challenge, replace. Notice the negative inner voice and the emotion you don't want. Challenge it. Is that really true? Is there another way to frame this? Replace it with a more constructive thought, a better story, and supportive body language. You are not just a helpless audience member watching your emotions on a screen. You're the director. You're conducting the emotional orchestra, not sitting in the cheap seats hoping the music gets better. Golden key number 3, real lasting change comes from building positive habits and taking intentional action every single day. Last, but definitely not least, the third golden key. A lot of us dream of big transformation, that dramatic turning point at the movie moment breakthrough. We wait for that one aha moment that changes everything overnight. But this book hits us with a more grounded truth. Lasting change doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from a series of small actions repeated over and over, from habits and intentional choices. Think about building a house. You can't construct a solid home in one night. It's built one brick at a time, carefully laid day after day. Each brick by itself doesn't look like much, but over time they form something strong and stable. Habits are the autopilot of your life. They drive most of your actions and decisions without you even thinking about it. If you want a different life, you need different habits. Want to be healthier? Start with a 15-minute walk in the morning and adding 1 extra serving of veggies to your meals. Want to get better at English? Spend 10 minutes a day listening to a podcast or reading a short article. Want better finances? Track your spending daily and set aside a small, consistent amount for saving or investing. An intentional action is what separates drifting from steering. It means you're not just reacting to whatever shows up. You're making conscious choices with a clear purpose in mind. Every day, you can ask yourself, what small step can I take today that moves me closer to my goals? Don't underestimate the power of tiny steps. Don't wait for the perfect time or a massive burst of motivation. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can today. Consistency beats intensity. 1 brick a day builds a castle. Starting over again and again because you quit, that just keeps you stuck at the beginning. So we've just walked through the 3 golden keys, from applied psychology, making your own world, to help you take charge of your world. 1. Master your perception and your focus. 2. Take control of your emotional state and your inner self-talk. 3. Build positive habits and take intentional action every day. Always remember, the outer world is a mirror of your inner world. When you change how you see, how you feel, and how you act, your world will change with it. You truly do have the power to create the kind of world you want to live, in a world filled with meaning, strength, and joy. Try applying even just one of these keys and watch what happens. And let me know in the comments which key resonates with you the most, and how are you going to start using it in your own life. We've just walked together through the core ideas and practical philosophies of applied psychology, making your own world. A powerful reminder that the ability to shape your own world is already in your hands. This isn't a book you read just to know something. It's an invitation to do something. It's a roadmap that shows you how to start designing your own reality. And now, as we close the book for this video, your real journey is only just beginning. You know, knowledge only truly becomes valuable when it's applied. It's like a seed. It has to be planted and cared for before it can sprout, blossom, and bear fruit. We've just talked about shifting your mindset, the power of habits, and the way we either build our own limitations or our own opportunities. But all of that will stay as theory forever if we don't turn it into concrete action. So I want to ask you a very personal, very direct question. After watching this video, what is the first action you're going to take? It doesn't have to be some dramatic, life-changing move right away. In fact, the most powerful beginnings are often small, specific, and intentional. Maybe you'll spend 5 minutes seriously thinking about one habit you want to change. Maybe you'll look up more resources on one applied psychology concept we just talked about. Or maybe you'll simply take 10 minutes to tidy up your workspace, create a cleaner environment, and from there, a clearer mind. Share that very first action in the comments below. Don't hold back, because who knows? Your idea might be the spark that inspires someone else, and it might open up a meaningful conversation we can all be part of. This isn't just about you leaving a comment. It's about you helping build a community where we learn together, grow together, and encourage each other as we each create our own inner world. Every comment you leave isn't just a line of text. It's a public declaration of your commitment to yourself, and it can be incredibly valuable to someone out there who's looking for a sense of connection. If you feel like these insights have been helpful, if you found a bit of motivation, a fresh perspective, or you simply enjoy the way we explore applied psychology together, then don't forget to hit the like button on this video. And even more important, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That's not just a way of supporting the channel, it's how you make sure you don't miss future deep dive practical content we'll be sharing. There are so many fascinating topics in applied psychology waiting for us to explore together, and each video is another puzzle piece that helps you complete the picture of your own world. When you subscribe, it's your way of saying to me, keep going. I'm here, I'm listening, and I want to keep learning. And hey, think about this for a second in your life. Right now, there is definitely someone who needs a nudge. Someone who could use a little spark to get unstuck, to see their situation differently. Maybe it's a friend wrestling with a big decision, a family member searching for meaning, or a coworker trying to level up their performance. If you think this video might speak to them, give them a new angle, or inspire a positive shift, then don't hesitate to share this link with them. Be the person who hands them a tool, a new way of thinking, or a bit of hope to start their own journey. Sometimes, the right message at the right time, a simple, sincere share can change the entire course of someone's life. Let's spread this in a positive way, my friend. Personal growth is a never-ending journey, and we still have so much more to discover. The ideas from applied psychology are just the starting point. If you'd like to go deeper into something specific, like how to build better habits that actually stick, or how to manage your emotions so you can make clearer decisions, I've already got other videos on the channel that can help. Click on the video that's on your screen right now or check the description to keep going on this path of uncovering the secrets of applied psychology and bringing them into your everyday life. Each video is one more piece of the puzzle, and together we're building a clearer, more complete picture of how to live a fuller, more intentional life. Finally, I want to circle back to one powerful truth this book has been stressing all along. The power to shape your world is in your hands. Don't sit around waiting for something huge to happen. Don't wait for a miracle from the outside. Start with you right now. Every small action, every intentional thought you choose today becomes a brick in the future. You're building a future you genuinely want to live in. Thank you for walking through this video with me. Remember, your journey starts today. I truly believe you've got what it takes. I'll see you in the next video.